time of interactive interviews on diverse topics that inspire and empower. We bring the most knowledgeable and dynamic guests from across the globe. Subject matter experts who leave you fascinated by their depth of knowledge. Now, there's never a dull moment with your dynamic host, Reverend Gilbert Samba, a professional journalist, a passionate preacher, an inspirational author, an exquisite orator, and a master of the craft. With thousands of followers and diverse topics, Empowerment Hour is the one-stop shop for answers to all your questions. On Empowerment Hour, we answer in the light questions that are asked in the dark. We bring to you inspirations that brings transformation. We are live every week on Facebook and YouTube. Find us on Facebook at Reverend Gilbert Samba and Empowerment Gospel Outreach. Find us on YouTube at an Empowerment Gospel TV. Empowerment Hour. Everyone is welcome. We are live every week on Facebook and YouTube. Find us on Facebook at Reverend Gilbert Samba and Empowerment Gospel Outreach. Find us on YouTube at Empowerment Gospel TV, Empowerment Hour. Join us on Empowerment Hour every week live on Facebook and YouTube. A time of interactive interviews on diverse topics that inspire and empower. We bring the most knowledgeable and dynamic guests from across the globe. Subject matter experts who leave you fascinated by their depth of knowledge. Now, there's never a dull moment with your dynamic host, Reverend Gilbert Samba, a professional journalist, a passionate preacher, an inspirational author, an exquisite orator, and a master of the craft. With thousands of followers and diverse topics, Empower is the one-stop.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you all are welcome again to another session on Empowerment Hour with me, Gilbert Samba. We are live and you already know what to do. It is time for us to go ahead and share this live stream right here as we double check our monitors to make sure all is going on good. Nice. I see a couple of you in there already. Thank you all for joining. It's going to be a very, very exciting session today. I got my pen, I got my notes, papers to take notes and everything. Just get yourself ready because today's session is for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. There's going to be something for you to take home today for yourself, for a loved one, for someone somewhere. It's going to be a very, very educative session today. So I want you to come ready because this is not one of those sessions where you want to miss on any moment. So we have our guests already in the house. Thank you all that are joining. I see you there. If you say hi to us, we will be able to recognize you and where you're watching from. It will be awesome. Let's go ahead and bring our guest already who is with us in the studio. Good to have you, Barrister Clarice.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing today? Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for making our time to be with us, to really talk to us and educate us today in this session. Thank you once again
Sure,
for
you're
coming.
welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, we are looking forward to a very, very great session today. It's not one of the regulars. This is out of the regular, very, very special session
Yeah.
for you to educate us on something very, very important. But before we dive deeper, let's get to know you a little bit more. Who is Barrister Clarice? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been I'm originally from Cameroon. I'm a Silk girl. Um,
Okay.
if a lot of you recognize that last name, I am Reverend Dr. Paul Fonka's third daughter. And I'm usually not around. I've been everywhere all over the United States. Usually, a free spirit. I travel a lot. I am very active. So yeah, so I went to Baylor for undergrad, where I majored in international studies, political science, and did a little bit of African studies when I was there. They were just reviving that program at Baylor. It had died, and then it picked up. One of my dad's friends, who was a professor, was reviving it. So it should be up and running now, but I did do a little bit of that. And then after that, I went to Lansing, Michigan, where I went to Western Michigan. I believe they changed the name to Western Michigan Thomas Cooley Art School. I graduated in 2012, took the bar, passed the first time, and I've hit the ground running ever
Nice.
since. So I've been licensed, going on 11 years now, I believe, since 2012. I've had the opportunity to practice both sides of the law. So I did criminal law or civil law for 5 years. Then after that, I went criminal law, where I was a prosecutor. I worked in various cities. I did city attorney work, and then I was a prosecutor in Tarrant County. There, I got to work under an awesome district attorney, Sharon Wilson.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's pretty much been my background these
Yeah.
days. Yeah, so these days what I do is I try to stay current and stay in court, but nowadays I'm pretty much taking it, I would say, a little bit easier. By other people's standards, I still work a lot, but to me,
Okay.
it's a little bit easier. So I do a little bit of consulting on the side, and I don't actively practice immigration law. But so you probably ask, well, why is she on here? Well, my passion is immigration law and civil rights. So
Okay.
for my clinicals, my last year of law school, you're required to do like an internship or clinicals. I did the immigration and civil rights clinic, and I practiced immigration law for a while, but the Lord was like, no, I'm leading you elsewhere. So I still keep up with the current events. I still read up on it. I live and breathe it. So as you can imagine, being a lady of justice, like that's really one of my passions right now and my concerns with this new
Yeah.
administration.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so my retirement plan is actually to be an immigration judge. So it's
Okay. Well, you're the perfect person. So we have the perfect person right here to do the job for
yeah,
us.
so it pretty much
Okay.
tracks as to why I'm here. Yeah. So that's just a little
Yes.
bit about me. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's quite an amazing journey right there. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for letting us know that. I mean, law, it seems so much love for it, the passion, the
Yeah.
joy of talking about it. What made you get so passionate about law? Is it
Yeah.
a childhood dream you had, or is just something that came along the way?
Well, what's funny is that my parents always thought I would be a teacher. I guess it's because I love
Okay.
kids, and I was a teacher assistant for a while, and I like to explain things and I like to learn, but I thought I was going to be an urban planner, right? With
Okay.
the idea of like going back home and setting up cities and, making sure that cities get urbanized and things like that. That's what I thought I was going to be, but I went to Baylor, studied. It opened up my mind to different things and how to think. And
Mm.
one random night, I just woke up and I applied for law school, and God was like, "This is what I want you to do."
Oh,
And I
wow.
did it. Yeah. So that's actually how I would say probably that changed maybe like my sophomore year at Baylor,
Mm-hmm.
is when I started looking into law. But when I was going in, I thought I was going to be an urban planner. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, plans change and really interesting.
Yeah.
all right there, but not so far from what has always been the dream, uh,
Yeah.
helping people, helping communities. So
Yeah.
that's still around those lines there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what has been the journey for you in America as a lawyer, and especially being a woman in this field? Do
Yeah.
you face some special challenges, and how have you overcome those as you've been on this journey?
Yeah, I still do. I think that the in the West, I would say, it's still very white male dominated. That
Mhm.
idea of, sitting for the bar, the traditional old male, suits and tie, and the gentleman's club. That's still there. A lot of white and black women, I would say, are making strides. A lot of judges and prosecutors, especially here in Dallas County, they are really doing great, strides as far as like women in law goes. And there are a
Okay.
lot of minorities and women in, as far as what we would consider, you would mostly see males dominating that field, whether it's judges,
Yeah.
prosecutors, or legislators. Like my sorority sister, Jasmine Crockett, she's doing big things, and things like that.
Yes.
So we've come a long way. I would say we still have a long way to go. For me, it has been challenging sometimes where people underestimate you, or
Mhm.
they'll yeah, or they'll test your patience, or definitely test your intelligence. And one thing that I give my mother credit for is I'll never forget, one day I was complaining and she just looked at me. She was like, "Look, you're black, you're
Mhm.
African, and you're a woman. So you're going to have to figure it out. Like, these are three things that are strikes against you, but they can also be blessings. They can make you
Yes.
stronger as to who you are. You just have to find yourself and know yourself." So,
Yes.
when she put that in my head, I was just like, okay, I can see that. If others have done it, I can do it. I just have to find my own path and what really like works for me. Everyone's journey is completely different, right? So with mine, it's been really, really tough. And I've gotten, I think it's a compliment. People are like, "You're the chillest lawyer I know." I'm like, if you only knew what I went through to get there, it was like one step forward, two steps back, and things
Wow.
like that. So I've just been really grateful for, what God has put in my life to fight to get where I've gotten. I do think that I have a long way to go, but I have solidified who I am as a lawyer, and
That's good.
how I litigate and how I practice. And but I would say when I first started, I fought everything, like
Hmm.
everything, like,
Wow.
yeah. So nowadays I pick and choose my battles, you
Okay.
know, and I would say that I am a little bit wiser, but definitely it's been very, very, very tough.
Yeah.
And it's had its good moments, where I've went home really, because I don't do what I know I'm not going to be able to sleep at night, right? Like whatever decisions I make, I have to be able to go home and sleep at night. And
Yeah.
also, the type of lawyer I am is very faith based. I'm a Christian lawyer, so I kind of move different, and
Okay.
so yeah, so it's been a journey. I think that there are some practices, or some roles that the Lord puts us in, that it not only becomes what you do for monetary gain, but it's also, a testimony as to how He wants you, to show your light.
Yeah.
So yeah, so as a woman, it's been tough, but I mean, if I did it, anyone can. Yeah, I think I just sometimes make it look easy because I don't, show people when I cry. But overall, like, it has been tough as a woman in law. And I'm very grateful to have support systems from, my
Amen.
sorority sisters and other minority women, whether they're my Black attorney friends, my Indian girlfriends. I've been really, really blessed to have a strong tribe, of people, even males.
Nice.
Yeah, it has been tough, but I would say for any young girl out there who wants to do it, if I can do it, you can do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Great, great.
yeah,
Great encouragement right there. Thank you so much for that.
yeah,
And, as we go deeper into days, we're talking today about, situations going on and around the nation right now, all of those activities happening. Before we dive really deep into that, just set the pace level for us here, get us into a flat level view here, where we want to first of all understand what is immigration law, what is asylum. Just discuss, educate us on these things for a little bit before we get deeper into the conversation.
Okay, so I have to give my disclaimer, right? I have to give my legal disclaimer. This is more of a primer. Immigration law is very complex. It's not one size fit all. What happened to your neighbor John might not be the same for your neighbor, Jennifer. Like, consult an attorney for your specific case. So my intention tonight is to just have like a fireside chat and give you a primer on what an elevator pitch as to what immigration law is and some of the stuff we're facing. So I'm not doing a super, super deep dive. I don't want you to start freaking out if I mention something and you're like, oh my God, this might apply to my case. It might not. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there that do not walk away thinking, okay, Attorney Fanka is now my lawyer and she said this, so this is what I have to do. By all means, I'm absolutely not doing that. I just stated I don't practice immigration law actively. So what happened to, one of my friends who do practice it in court today, I might say something and it might be different as to how the trends are looking now, right? So, my job here is just to give a primer and to pretty much give us what we need to know to maybe put in our talks. There are things that apply universally, like your constitutional rights. And so that's where we are. So that's my legal disclaimer. So what is immigration law? Okay, so I believe when we had our community event, what I meant to state was that we do have codified immigration law, right? And the problem that we see is that it's a fairly new law, like compared to common law of family law. Family law has been around for ages. So basically with immigration law is that what we rely on as practitioners are federal codes that actually establish what the rules are, right? So like, for example, we have Title VII that deals with employment, the EEOC, when you have an employment complaint, that's Title VII. Now with immigration law, you'll find it in Title VIII, okay? The INA, which is the Immigration and Nationality Act, it was actually enacted in 1952. That's like our bread and butter for practitioners to follow. So those are laws along with the federal guidelines and sometimes state law, but this is mostly federal law. Okay. State law does not trump what federal law says. So immigration law is governed by federal law, the INA code, and then other laws that come into effect, whether it's what we call law that is not completely codified, but it went to hearing, like the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court hears something, they can do a ruling if there's a question, right? So policies change. So when you see something like, oh, the Trump administration did this or this happened, the Supreme Court has found that Congress has what we call plenary power, which means basically ultimate power to immigration laws, right? So the trends and the policies, they change during like political events. So if you have a new administration, this administration could come along and change what this other administration did, or they could come in and say, hey, we want to focus on asylees, or we want to focus on TPS holders, or so it changes based on the political climate mostly. It can vary over and over. So basically that's what immigration law is now. After 1952, the goal was to decide, who can enter here within these lands, and also who can be accorded, whether it's citizenship or permanent residency. So it's just a group of laws that has been codified over the years to determine how, immigrants can come in, whether you're a non-immigrant or an immigrant with the intent to stay. I know it's a lot, but so immigration law is complex. It's everywhere. but it's nowhere at the same time. And so, yeah. So, and
Yeah.
then the next question was asylum.
Asylum. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's really
Okay.
helpful there about immigration law.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
Take us deeper into asylum. What is it all about? How,
okay.
if at all, how did it come about? Something of that, and what is the use of that
Okay.
law to the American society?
Sure. So the idea of asylum came about through mostly it's a international and a humanitarian thought, right? So like with refugees,
Mm-hmm.
refugee and an asylum is under the same umbrella, but you shouldn't confuse it because those are two different things, right?
Okay.
So, but those two ideas came under the umbrella of international law. So, what it is countries got together and said, yes, we will protect these people who are fleeing persecution from their lands, right?
Okay.
So, when the international bodies decided that, each sovereign state, meaning the US, right, took it and said, this is how we want it to look, but it's under a universal umbrella. Okay. So
Okay.
now with asylum, it's a two-pronged test that you have to show, right? So with asylum, you have to prove that you do have that status, which is um, the status actually comes from like an international treaty of what it means. It's a universal definition of what it means to be a refugee, right?
Right.
So
Right.
the second prong is that you have a credible fear, you know, a
Mm,
well-founded, credible fear of persecution. Now you have to fit in what I call 5 categories um, or classes, right? So we consider these classes that you have to fit. So number one is that you're a refugee, and then number two is that you have a well credible fear that you're going to be persecuted based on these 5 classes.
okay.
So I always forget the last 3, so I'm going to pull them up, and then we'll talk about what it looks like to have that well-founded fear, right? So
Right.
it has to be based on race, religion, nationality, and that you're a member of a particular group. It can be a social group or a political group that the government is persecuting. So
Okay.
yeah, so those are the 5 classes you have to be in to actually claim a well-founded fear of persecution. Yeah.
That's
So
good.
so those are the two-prong tests that you have to show. Now, there for the United States purposes, there are 2 types of what I would consider asylum, right? You
Mhm.
have an affirmative asylum, which is what I would say most of us know, and then you have what we call a defensive claim of asylum, right? So affirmative claim of asylum is the one you see where most people purposely avail themselves to apply for asylum. Okay,
Okay.
that's what we
Okay.
call an affirmative asylum. Then defensive is when you are subject to removal or you are detained and you're like, yeah, I have a credible fear. You guys can't send me back. That's what we call.
Okay.
Yes. So when you're doing an affirmative claim for asylum, you file your petition. And one thing I should add that's really important for these is that there is a time frame. You have up to a year of being within the land to actually file, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit later
Okay.
down the road. But you do have a time period now. There's always exceptions to the rules. If you can show extraordinary circumstances as to why you didn't do it within that 1 year, then you can still apply, but that's very limited. But as a general rule, you have up to a year
Yeah.
to apply. And I know we're also going to talk about this later, but in the past, there wasn't a filing fee for asylum.
Okay.
But the Trump administration has now set a filing fee. And currently, the last time I checked, October 30th, there was an injunction, so the court blocked it. But it is coming down the pipelines that there is going to be a fee, I believe, of $100 going forward to actually file for your asylum petition.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one of the changes that the Trump administration is trying to impose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a really, really good information right there,
yeah,
hearing about asylum. And you said this is under international law. So I was taking a few notes here.
yes,
It's protected under, international law, which has to do with refugee and
Yes,
asylum status and all of that.
correct.
How come it's become so difficult for asylum seekers to get asylum under the current administration? Even people that you talk about credible fear, we've heard cases of people who have really credible fear, yet they are still sent back.
Sure.
Why has it become increasingly difficult to get asylum under this administration?
You know what? I would say it's always been difficult,
Okay.
as far as the actual process goes, but especially difficult in this administration because we have a backlog.
Okay.
And also the old rules that kind of made it easier. It's kind of hard for me to say it's been made easier when you have people crossing, jungles and borders and going through human rights violations to get here. It's never easy. So that's not what I'm saying. But
Mm,
there have been policies and directives, which is not law, but it's just directives on best management practices that has made it harder, right? Like
mhm.
a couple of years ago, when Trump had his, I believe it was his first term, where he made it very hard at the border, and we had to appeal, and we just went crazy. Where he just stopped people, right, and they were detained in Mexico or whatever borders they were coming. So it's little things like that that he's done, that the administration has done to make it harder. And
Right.
another thing that I would say has made it harder is the idea of expedited removal. And we'll talk about that later on. It'll
Mhm.
connect with other things that we're going to discuss, but it's little ideas that the Trump administration has implemented that has made it super, super hard for people to actually navigate the court systems. And
Yeah.
yeah, and navigate, how to apply. Usually, I would say back in the day, it used to be way easier to apply than it is now, right? So
Yeah.
I would say one of the hardest things that this administration has done to make it harder is the idea of expedited removal, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. But that's why it's hard. But surprisingly, as far as the affirmative defenses, remember I told you there are two types of asylum. Uh,
Yes.
Affirmative and defensive.
Mhm.
As far as defensive, I checked the 2024 fact book to see which countries actually got granted defensive asylum, and Cameroon was actually second.
Oh,
So I think
wow.
it was Afghanistan that was first, and then Cameroon was second. But even when you look at those numbers, it pairs in comparisons to people who actually applied. This is just
Uh,
like, yeah. So this was what they do every year is like the highest jurisdictions that have people that actually apply for asylum or petition, or respondents that petition. They give us like fact books for the year as to
mm,
certain countries that were granted, and Cameroon was actually second. So maybe all hope is not lost. I mean, the 2025 results haven't been out yet, so I can't really speak on that. But 2024, we were second.
mm.
Yeah, so I believe it was like 1,500 people were granted. But I
Okay.
mean, it pales in comparison to how many people actually, like,
Right.
petitioned or applied
Yeah.
or filed,
Okay.
but we were considered second. So I don't want to say all hope is lost, but yeah, it is definitely a little bit harder than it used to be. And
Yeah.
that's why I cannot stress another thing that came out with the fact book I looked on today was that the people who received approval actually had an attorney. They weren't what we call pro se, which means they didn't do it themselves. The number
Mhm.
for people who actually got it approved or granted, they were represented by counsel. So I cannot stress how important it is that you don't go to your uncle so and so's house who did it in the 80s and was able to get it done. If you have a situation where your situation is complicated, even if it's not complicated, right? You never know. Get an
Mhm.
attorney. Yeah,
That's the next thing I think you started touching on that already.
right.
That's the next thing I want to find out from you. What should someone do these days if they're planning to, seek asylum in America? What advice? You already started touching on that. Please
Yeah.
tell me a little more.
Yeah, one advice is check the Texas Bar website. The Texas Bar website shows attorneys that can help you. There are a lot of, I know the Dallas Catholic Charities used to do it, used to have, and I used to volunteer there actually, where we would have seminars on Saturdays where you can go and seek help. There's, well, now with the Trump administration, I don't even know if these nonprofits, are still operating, but seek help, find help. There's so many resources, especially here in Texas. There are lots of resources. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I would say. I would say if you know that you're filing for asylum, or if you know you have a situation where, because unfortunately, filing for asylum, I would say, gives you exposure, right? It gives you exposure to ICE. It gives you exposure to the government. So I would say really make sure you have your ducks in a row and you have everything in order. Definitely do not commit crimes, please. Like, make it easy for your attorney. One
Mhm.
thing this administration is stressing, which I actually agree with, is that you're a person of good moral character, right? Which,
Mhm.
I mean, based on who our leader is, I don't really know. It's kind of like, don't throw stones in glass houses, but you know what I mean. So you have to show that you're a person of good moral character.
That's
And
right.
if you have committed what we call crimes of moral turpitude, definitely get not only an immigration lawyer, but a criminal lawyer to work hand in hand with your immigration lawyer to make sure that you don't end up on the wrong side of the law as far as being removed.
Yeah.
Um, and crimes of moral turpitude are, and you can even Google it. It's a list, and it's ever growing nowadays. But it's theft, fraud, any aggravated felony offenses, aggravated meaning, armed robbery, murder,
Mhm,
and things
mhm.
like that, that can put you on a path of being deportable, removable, not being able to adjust your status. So if you are thinking about applying for asylum, definitely make sure you're paying your taxes, you're paying your child support, everything is in order, So that's one
Mhm.
thing that they actually look for as far as not only asylum, but also adjusting other statuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Before I get to talk to you about what someone should do if their asylum claim has been denied,
Okay.
any advice around that? But before that, you've been in the field, probably yourself or friends or people you've heard. Really talk to us in general, because some people think the whole idea of asylum is just lies, people faking stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to us about real situations you've seen on ground where people are really in danger of going back home, because
Yeah.
for the most part, people don't really know the details. There are some who are really in a bad state
Yeah.
and they still end up getting deported. Really talk about how deplorable and sad such a situation is, where someone's, a case, maybe an example or something, and then
Mhm.
really what that causes to that person that you're sending back.
Yeah. I actually have one that's kind of close to home. And
Oh,
I mean, unfortunately, he called me kind of late, so there really wasn't much I could do. And I tried, and I got one of my really good friends who does removals on it, and it was just too late. But I have seen situations, not so much for Cameroon, but he was from Brazil,
okay.
and he was very successful here, had he, tons of businesses, and he got arrested for a claim that his ex-girlfriend made. You can only imagine what that claim was. And so he actually had a credible fear because I knew his story. He escaped a gang group back in Brazil, and they were like, well, if you ever came back, you'll be dead type thing, So and he was currently and once he got here, like I said, that 1 year window is very important. He thought since he had a good claim, he could just take his time. And unfortunately for him, that 1 year passed, right? So
Yeah.
eventually he ended up getting a hold, and he called me and he was like, if I go home, I'm dead. Like,
Wow.
he had a credible fear. And so and another issue is that he didn't have his ducks in a row here. So basically what happened is that, his friends went to his house, took all his important valuable items, took his money, his business closed because he never had someone
Mm.
who was, a power of attorney on it and things like that. So I have seen it where I'm like, I don't even think he's alive because he's never contacted me since he got to Brazil.
Mm.
So yeah, so people definitely have credible fear. Even Cameroonians have credible fear. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing to remember with the idea of credible fear is that country circumstances can change, right? So
Right.
if
Right.
you come here on, I was a part of this political group, and then the next day there's elections, and then this other person gets in power, and you no longer have that fear. It's not a permanent status, so it can change if that makes
Yeah. Yeah. I
right.
see. I
Yeah,
see.
so that's one thing to remember with the idea of being of that group. That group can change. So it's not a permanent accorded status. So that's something that we do also have to remember. Uh,
Yeah.
but what in my opinion, the Trump administration, I've looked into it. Um, when he had his first term, and I, felt very confident about the idea of him actually looking into what is going on in Cameroon.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, in this second term, his, I would say their foreign policy is set elsewhere, where I haven't really seen any buzz as far as, that department goes with how the country conditions of Cameroon currently
Yeah.
is, and what
Mhm.
their opinion of it is. So I can't really speak on that. But what I know based on the crisis, especially being Anglophone, I do think that we have a credible fear, right?
Right.
Problem
Right.
occurs when you have people who don't get an attorney, or they end up not personalizing their fear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not one size fit all.
That's right.
So your
That's
fear
right.
might be different from mine. So it's a matter of you actually being honest and you actually being truthful as to what your credible fear is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful. Really great. Really great. Great. Thanks to everyone that is joining us there. These are just sinking in, and great insights you're giving us here.
Sure.
So, what should someone do in such a situation now with the current situation in America if your
Okay.
asylum claim has been denied and you're caught in such
Okay.
a situation?
That's a good question. It depends on why were you denied, right? It's not a blanket, we're sorry you're denied. Were you denied because you missed a filing fee? Were you denied because you didn't establish your credible fear in an expressed manner where they actually agreed with you? It depends on why you were denied. And that's what practitioners, the first question is going to be, why were you denied? Right. Then
Mhm.
after that, you can know what to do. Like I said, there's always exceptions to the rule. And depending on what your denial was, and depending on your situation, you have I don't want to say a right, but you can appeal.
Okay.
Now, as far as appeals go, once again, and you'll see that the trend here is that time matters. So you have an allotted time frame to appeal, right? So if it's something that, if your claim was denied and you did it what we call pro se by yourself, definitely get an attorney. If it was denied, all hope is not lost based on why you were denied. I would say. So each situation is different. So the first question I would say is, why were you denied? And then what are your options? You can have an option to appeal, or you can have other avenues. Another thing that Trump has changed is that we no longer have TPS, right? As Cameroonians, that was
Yes.
in August. So, but you still have certain other avenues like, withholding of removal, or the Convention Against Torture, or things like that. So it really just depends as to what the basis of denial was. Like they can't just say, "Oh, you're denied," and not tell you why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Powerful, powerful.
Yeah.
Really, really great insights you're giving us tonight. Thank you so much. I mean,
Yeah.
we're truly grateful for this. These are things we're gonna spend so much money to even get someone to talk to us, and here you are really being a blessing to us. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're
We're
welcome.
truly grateful for that. The next thing I really want to find out from you is the aspect of ICE, which is
Okay.
almost in almost every city right now, going around
Right.
and trying to
Yes.
really get this removal proceedings going on very fast as they can.
Yes.
What should you do if you're out of status? You're out of status, and then you're confronted by ICE. They just show up in front of you, and
Okay.
maybe at your door or somewhere, and
Yeah.
you're done. What should you do?
Yes. Yes, that's a wonderful question. Okay. So the one thing I want us to remember is that ICE is just the enforcement branch, right?
Okay.
They are the police of immigration. Okay.
Yes.
Um, they can't, the immigration court is who has jurisdiction to deport you, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so just think about it like police arrest you, charge you with a crime. We find probable cause. I come, prosecute you. You're convicted. Then the judge sentence you, right?
Mm,
So ISIS job is pretty much to enforce the laws that have already been in place. Okay, so
okay.
that's one thing we need to remember. Now, as far as ICE goes, it depends where you're getting stopped. Okay, so you have certain rights that are accorded to you based on where you are. If it's your home, you have higher rights. If it's in the public, how public is it? Okay, so let's talk about your home first. And then I believe I sent you sample one. We can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can pull that up and then I can explain what to look for when they claim to have a warrant because those ideas are very important.
Okay. So let me get sample one on.
Okay.
All right. Let me go ahead and share this. Okay, it's on the screen now.
Okay. Um, is there a way I can make this a little bigger? Let me see.
Uh, let me
I
try.
could make it a little bigger. Okay, so
Okay.
I think that if your audience can see, oh, that's great. Okay. So what we're looking at is an ICE warrant versus a court warrant. Okay. And it's a little,
Should I do one side first, the court warrant?
yes, let's do that. Let's do that. That might be better.
Okay. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so what we're looking at is a court warrant. Now, with this warrant, that's what accords law enforcement, whether it's ICE, the FBI, um, regular, police officers, Dallas PD, Arlington PD. This search warrant is what accords them the right to enter your home, right? So
Okay.
if you're looking at this, yes, you have to let them in. If you don't let them in, they're going to bust your door down. And trust me, they do not pay for that. So
Mm,
if they have this warrant, you have to let them in. Now, this warrant is only limited to, I don't know if you guys can see where it says this warrant is only valid for the location. So whenever it's presented to you, you want to look at it and make sure that is valid for your address because they have presented wrong warrants to the wrong house and it's been a whole thing, and it's going to list exactly why they are there. Okay, so it'll say, we're here to search your bedroom, or we're here to search. It's supposed to be very specific as to what they're looking for, and that's all they're
okay.
limited to search for it. Okay, now sometimes
Mhm.
with these kind of warrants, you'll see where they come in. Let's say you work at a factory where there are a lot of immigrants there, and there's been rumors that they're hiring illegals or people who are undocumented. Now, this search warrant can say we want to search the books to see who here is actually has a work permit or has this. So it limits law enforcement officers to what exactly they're searching. Okay. So
Okay.
if you are in your home and this warrant is presented, by all means, let them in, but look at it because you do have the right to look at it. Make sure it's signed by a judge. Okay. So
Yeah.
the other warrant, which is the red one, is what's considered an ICE warrant. Okay. And so on top, you can see where it says warrant of removal, deportation. And it should have, the United States on top. And now you might say, why is she showing us this? I'm showing you this because there has been situations where certain people or certain groups of people who do not like certain minorities have been making fake warrants and intimidating minorities. So I feel, in my opinion, that it's really important
Okay.
for
Yes,
us
it
to
is.
actually know when we're presented something, whether it's real or fake. Okay. So
Absolutely.
this is a sample, the most recent sample of what an ICE warrant looks like. So if you can scroll down, it'll have a check as to what exactly the authority is, and it'll have all the information. And then if you look at the bottom right, it has the ICE form. Um, and one thing to remember, the difference between the red one and the blue one is that it's signed by an ICE officer and not a judge. Okay. To us, that means a lot.
Okay.
As an attorney, it means it's more of an administrative warrant versus the blue one, which is a criminal warrant. Okay. So if
Okay.
if I'm sitting at home and an ICE officer knocks on my door personally, I'm not telling you to do this, but I am telling you what I would do. With that red one, without the blue one, I'm not letting you in. If they are asking for someone, I'm just gonna say, well, they're not here, or they don't live here, or you're telling me you have a search warrant. That red one is not a search warrant. So personally, I
Okay.
wouldn't let them in. Okay.
Okay.
So the blue warrant accords more jurisdiction to the officers who have it, and that jurisdiction comes from the fact that it is signed by a judge versus the red one, which is signed by an ICE officer. So it means two different things legally. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Powerful.
Yeah. So I do think it's important, to point that out. And
Yes.
to let us know, I was very shocked when I heard that there are certain groups of people who are pretending to be ICE officers and detaining minorities. So, yeah, yeah,
Powerful. Great, great,
yeah.
great, great,
And
great. Really
so, okay,
nice.
so that's if you're at home. Now, if you're out in the streets, the number one way that we see arrest is driving. Okay. Driving is a
Mm-hmm.
privilege and not a right. So, when you're stopped on the road, depending on why you were stopped, it can lead to various different things as far as what the stop looks like. A DWI stop is way different from I'm running late to pick up my kids and I was going 20 over, right? So,
Yes.
with those, what you should say really depends. Okay. And
Yeah.
so I'm probably jumping ahead, but it all ties in. So to go back with the major change that Trump has done is to implement the idea of expedited removal. Okay. Expedited removal basically means what it says is that, like, you can get removed without a hearing or without seeing a judge based on these particular circumstances, right? So
Yeah.
one of the circumstances is that you haven't been here past 2 years. And
Mm.
so when you are approached, my ultimate response is always just use your right to remain silent. Just use it. And you'd be surprised, like the next buzzword is, am I free to go? You'd be surprised. They might be like, yeah, you are free to go. Most of the time, you are free to go. They don't have a reasonable suspicion of stopping you. Now, unfortunately, there has been a ruling that came down with the Supreme Court that is basically saying they can racially profile you. I don't know how else to sugarcoat it. Because the idea of being stopped for immigration purposes is a little bit different than criminal purposes, where you cannot
Right.
racially profile someone. But how else am I going to know you're an immigrant except for I hear your accent, or
Right.
you know what I mean? It's all based on external
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate factors that we as, attorneys have said is illegal. You can't profile people, but with this new Supreme Court ruling, you absolutely can. So
Mm.
yeah, so another answer to me that I would give is that you do remain silent. Now, if it's looking like the buzzword questions is, have you been here for more than 2 years? If an officer inquires that, just know that what's going on in their heads is the idea of expedited removal, right?
Yeah.
Because if you answer, then it goes deeper than what you thought it was, which is it goes just remain silent, because that's what they're
Yeah.
figure out. It's like, and then if you say, oh, I wasn't born here, God forbid you say that, because then it lets them know that you're not a citizen, and it gives them what we call reasonable suspicion to detain you to find out if you. So it really just depends on why you're stopped. So if it's a situation where you're stopped and they already have your information, then that changes the game as to my opinion of you remaining silent, right?
Yeah.
Already have your information. So then that idea is, what do I need to present to go home? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And so it really just depends on what situation you're stopped in. If you are just walking down the street or you're at the mall and you're stopped, you should remain silent. Okay. But
Yeah.
if you're in a situation where you are caught up in DWI, and I can't, and you're probably like, why is she bringing that up? Because that's the number one way our African brothers and sisters are getting deported is DUI.
Mm.
Stress that enough, right? When you're stopped with that, they already have your information. So it's just a matter of, you might want to remain silent as to the criminal case you're facing. But as far as them deciding, okay, and remember, like I said, over 3,000, their quota is 3,000 a day. A lot of them don't have that training with the goal of deporting 1,000,000. To me, you're like, going through a chain of swift training to get these officers out there. So they're trying to figure out if they're doing the right thing. And we're humans, we make mistakes,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you want to put yourself in a position where you don't say too much, or you say too little, or you do too little, and then you have an ice hold. So it really just depends on, which situation you are. By all means, if you're just walking down the street minding your business and you get stopped by ICE, ask them if you have permission to leave. Just tell them you're exercising your Fifth Amendment right and go home. Like, you'd be surprised. They don't have a reasonable suspicion to stop you. You haven't given them a reason. But if it's a situation where they have all your documents, like let's say you go to the courthouse and you got a notice to appear, right? For
Yeah.
purposes, they already have your information. They have your case file. They know you're on that docket and you're coming. So that's a little bit different. Hopefully your lawyer would be there to help you, but it really just depends on, number one, how much they know about me at this moment. If they don't,
Mm.
just remain silent and go home, please.
Wow.
Don't try to talk your way out of it.
Wow.
If you are a green card holder, federal law requires that you have your green card on you. Just show it to them. Tell them I've been here for more than 2 years. I'm I'm a lawful permanent resident, and I choose to exercise my Fifth Amendment right, and I want to go home. Am I free to leave? Like, they don't have reasonable suspicion. So the only time they stop you as ICE officers is if they have reasonable suspicion to believe that you're unlawful.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? Versus a regular police officer where they're thinking you robbed a bank, or they're thinking that you stole something, or from Walmart or something like that, or they're thinking that you have drugs on you, you have possession. That's completely different.
Yeah.
ICE officers, what they're looking for is reasonable suspicion that you're unlawful, or that you're so it really, that's one thing to keep in mind versus police officers.
Right.
And
Right.
so another thing with the search and seizure is that they're allowed to pat you down for the purposes of weapons, and that's it. Okay. Now, with the exception of having your green card on you, because that is federal law, do not give them your documents. Like the ones that you can make a copy of, like your citizenship certificate, the one they give you when you
Yes, certificate naturalization.
yeah, make copies of that, please, and keep them with you. Or, for the purposes of proving you've been here for 2 years, right? If you're going through that line of questioning, if you're stopped, keep like your lease on you from your apartment. I know this sounds crazy, y'all, but it's a thing. So maybe put it on your phone, show it to them, that 2 year, that's it. Am I free to go? So I have heard of instances where they'll take your items and confiscate them, or they're rushing to see who they can arrest during raids, and then they take your documents with them, and then you forget to say, hey, can I have that back? And then to get that back is really hard. So the ones that you can legally have a copy of, make copies and keep the original at home. and make sure that one of your loved ones has access to those original copies. Which leads
This
me
is
to,
serious, yeah.
so that's really important. And you'd be
Yeah.
surprised. You didn't have a hard time getting those documents back, if ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That begins to touch around the next thing I want to find out from you as a citizen. As we
Okay.
start winding down for the next couple of minutes, we have really been helpful. I see people just really enjoying this. Then, the aspect of you being a citizen. Sometimes you're a citizen and you talk about racial profiling, and they
Yes.
just because of the way you talk, the color of your skin, all of that,
Yeah.
you're pulled into these raids. And sometimes even we've heard stories of even citizens that have been carried into detention, and then they start sorting out and
Mhm.
finding out, oh, we picked the wrong one, then they send you back home.
Yeah.
Is there something you could have done to avoid such embarrassment? And then are there consequences for that officer who did that to you as a citizen?
Yeah.
We don't understand what's going on these days. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's a thing. Citizens have been detained. We've seen it a lot with Hispanics. I haven't been able to find any situations, but for some reason with this administration, they're really going after the Hispanic community, which is weird, but because a lot of them voted for Trump, but whatever. So, one thing I can say is if you are a citizen and it's looking like they're going down that road, right?
Mhm.
And this also applies with criminal, with PD, okay? Ask for a supervisor.
Okay.
Officers hate that, but if you're ever in a situation where and my number one rule is when you're out in public, that's their court, right? And I can't stress it enough. Um, Take your speeding ticket and go home with your life. Don't fight them. If you're
That's
ever
right.
approached, stay calm. Even if you know you are 100% right and this cop has the brain of a peanut, just keep your health and safety and your sanity together and go home alive. Okay. But what I'm also saying under that same breath is ask for a supervisor. If you know that you're in the right and you are a citizen, please let them know that. Like, don't say, oh, well, Clarice said I should, if it's looking like they're getting ready to detain you and they're getting ready to have arrest made and things like that, because what we're seeing is that ICE is also working with PD, right? So
Mhm,
you'll
mhm.
see situations where PD's coming and well, the general public might not know, but I can tell when an arrest is about to happen. Like I could be watching, First 48 or some cop show, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're about to arrest them, just based on my training and experience. But
Yeah.
you'll know when it's going to happen because they'll tell you you're not free to leave. So most of the time
Mm.
when you're detained and you're not free to leave, the next thing is usually an arrest. So ask for a supervisor, okay? And those documents that I've mentioned, anything that proves your citizenship, present it. Copies, please. Present those copies and tell them that I am a citizen. And one of the guys that was actually detained for 48 hours, he got actually arrested because the officer was like, okay, well, if you're a citizen, what hospital were you born in? And he couldn't remember. And they didn't let him call his mom, but he was actually born in a US hospital. So that was one of their reasons
Mm.
for actually detaining him. But in that instance, he should have asked for a supervisor, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
because these field officers, some of them don't know,
Wow.
new, they're rookies, or what we call rookies. So if you're in a situation like that, they're like, okay, well, the reason you're being arrested is because you didn't know where you were born. Like, come on. And you know that you were born at Baylor Medical Center, right? But you couldn't remember it. And that's why they asked for a supervisor
Yeah.
before you get taken in and processed and you're in the system, because that's a whole nother ball game. Is once you're being processed in the system, that's
Mm.
actually you from getting out. But when
Hmm.
you're out in the street, you want to have it where they haven't taken you in and booked you in yet, because that's a whole nother mess to get out of, even when you are a citizen.
Wow.
Yeah. Did I make sense? Did that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. It
Yeah.
does. Wow.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Really, really, really amazing stuff here. In the next 1 or 2 minutes, as we wrap up for tonight, tell us
Okay.
what to do as a loved one if a family member or a loved one has been taken
Sure. Okay.
people
So
just
I
family
sent
members just
samples. The
Mhm.
other samples have all the
Yeah.
information you need. I don't know if you want to put it under, or I can walk them through how that works.
Okay.
But as you're looking for sample two, I believe the first thing you need to do is figure out where they are. And in order for you to do that, you need to have or know their A number. And if you don't know their A number, you should know like their birthday, and hopefully you guys are in the same household, but you should also know what state. I believe it was sample two I sent you.
Yes, I see sample two
Okay.
here. I'm sharing that now.
Okay, so this is the online detainee locator system. It's on the federal website. Make sure it's the right website and it's not a phishing website where you go on and you end up getting hacked. But on there, it has all the explanation. You put the A number, the country of birth. That usually shows up your loved one's information, I believe, within 48 hours of them being detained. It takes a while, especially with the backlog now, for it actually to appear in the system.
Okay.
So you can definitely go on that. And then I believe sample three is also helpful. Um,
Okay.
if you can pull up sample three shows your local state detainee center. So if they're not, the one we just showed is like the federal one. If they haven't been processed
Mhm.
through there, you can also check on sample three. That is pulls up by the state. Um, so you scroll down. These are the detention facilities by state, and you put the state, the field office based, and field offices are based on usually by whether it's Tarrant County, Kaufman County, Dallas County.
Okay.
You can click on
Okay.
that and search the facility by name if you know it, and it should pop up. So that's what you should do if your loved one is detained. And then the third thing you should do, I believe, was Exhibit 3. You can log on there and put their A number, and it'll actually pull up if they have any court hearings coming up. And you can feel free to, appear on those court hearings or let them know. Or if you have an A number, you're not sure if you have a court hearing, type in your A number on that sample. I believe it was sample number 4 right here.
Mhm.
Please don't miss your court hearings. I know we're afraid, that we're going to get deported or we're going to get detained if we go to these court hearings, but it's even worse if you don't show up. So you can type on
Mm.
there, put your A number, put your nationality or your loved one's A number and nationality, and that should pop up whatever court hearings, they have.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. My God.
Yes. And
This
also,
is so good.
if they are in there, it used to be star 933. If they dial that while they're in a detention center, I don't know if the Trump administration has changed that. You can dial that and then call your house or call your loved one's cell phone and things like that if you are detained. That used to be a regular hotline that you could use as well if you're in that center. And all of that information should be able to help you, figure out how to put money on their books and things like that and contact them. Yeah.
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 Wow, Pastor Anita Lady Hannah from Maryland. Everybody's just like, wow, wow. And all the bunch of people in here just enjoying this. And Barrister Clarice, we don't know how to thank you enough. We don't know how to
No way.
appreciate you enough.
Yeah.
I'm sure in Bansor will say we need to bring you one fat cow because this is a big one for us today.
Yes,
This is
I have to
really, really
condense it
big.
because it's so complex. There's so much. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
I'm like, I forgot to tell them this, but overall, that's like a primer of
Wow.
of
My
what's
God.
going on.
Yeah, some things I've heard today are really, really shocking to hear, but it is what it is. And thank you for educating us in
Sure,
such
sure.
an amazing way. And we
You
don't
everyone.
we don't have the perfect words to appreciate you, but any final thing you want to close up before
Final
we
thing
wrap
is,
up?
look, if you're here, the Lord brought you here. Okay, there's a
Amen.
theory that immigrants that came long before us that were white. There was a certain amount of time. We want to thank the Civil Rights Act and things like that that actually made it possible for Blacks and Asians to come to the US back then. During the 1800s and during those times, it was only white people, but they had a theory that said if you're here because the Lord wants you. So if you're Black, if you're a minority, if you're Asian, you have every right to be here just as much as everyone else. Okay. And I know it seems scary now, and I know it seems like it's a fight. I don't want you to lose sleep over this. Just leave it to the Lord. You are here because He brought you here, and no administration can remove you unless it's His will. Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll continue to be great. We'll continue to be good citizens of this great country. And yeah, so if you have any issues, please, please, please consult an attorney. Okay, so I really want to appreciate you for bringing me tonight. And yeah, so look forward to hopefully adjudicating cases as an immigration judge. And I just really want to thank you for giving me this opportunity today.
Oh, wow. Thank you too so much. And we pray the Lord continues to guide you on your journey
Thank
and
you. Thank
continue to
you.
be a blessing to the many that you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Have a good night,
Bye bye.
everyone. Thank you. All
Yes.
right.
Bye bye. All right, my God, ladies and gentlemen, what a session we just had tonight. What an amazing time we had. Such a blessing having this great attorney just bless us tonight with this great insight. You heard it all for yourselves, and I know a bunch of you that on here, you're going to share this out because I saw a couple of people that shared it, and it's still so much that we have to learn, and these things are deep so much that I did not even know just hearing tonight. So go ahead and share this with someone, and it's going to be a blessing. You never know who really needs this. So share this on your pages, on your timeline, in your groups, and it's going to definitely bless someone. Thank you all for joining again, and this has been Empowerment Hour with me, Gilbert Samba, and I'm truly grateful you joined today. God bless you and have a great night. Till we come your way again next Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time. Stay in God's love and be a blessing wherever you go. Goodbye.